You're pathetic. A complete waste of potential. I'm done with you forever. My father said this in front of 89 people. Congressmen, federal judges, Fortune 500 CEOs. The entire elite of Chicago society gathered at the Four Seasons Ballroom for his 55th birthday gala. That night, I accessed a trust fund he had no idea existed. $23.4 million. My name is Marcus Davidson Jr. Most people call me Mark. My students call me Mr. D. I'm a middle school English teacher at Lincoln STEM Academy on the South Side. I make $62,000 a year. I rent a one-bedroom apartment in Pilsen that costs $1,900 a month. I drive a 2015 Honda Civic with 130,000 miles on it. I buy my lunch at the corner deli where a sandwich costs $6. My father, Marcus Davidson Sr., is the founder and CEO of Davidson Tech Solutions, a software and cybersecurity empire worth $580 million. 37 floors of glass and steel in downtown Chicago. Contracts with the Department of Defense, NASA, and every major bank in America. We hadn't spoken in 5 years. Not since I told him I was getting my master's in education from Northwestern instead of my MBA to join the family company. Teaching? He'd stared at me like I'd announced I was becoming a street performer. We don't teach, Marcus. We innovate. We disrupt. We build billion-dollar companies. Some people build futures in other ways, Dad. Some people are cowards who can't handle real pressure. I walked out of his penthouse that day and never went back. The invitation arrived on a Wednesday. Thick ivory cardstock. Embossed silver lettering. Marcus Davidson Sr. requests your presence at a celebration of his 55th birthday. The Four Seasons Grand Ballroom. Formal attire required. I almost recycled it immediately, but there was a post-it note stuck to the back. My Aunt Helen's handwriting. Mark, please consider coming. Your dad specifically wanted you invited. I think he's ready to make amends. It would mean everything to the family. Aunt H. I kept that note on my refrigerator for 5 days. Make amends? After 5 years of absolute silence. After he'd told business reporters I was pursuing other interests, like I was some embarrassing side project he'd abandoned. But Aunt Helen had never stopped believing in me. She'd come to my thesis defense. She'd sent me a card when I got my teaching job with a $100 Amazon gift card for classroom supplies. So I decided to go. I rented a tuxedo for $165. I drove my Honda Civic to the Four Seasons parking garage and paid $38 for valet. I walked into that ballroom at 8:12 p.m. on Saturday, May 20th, feeling like an imposter. The grand ballroom was breathtaking. Swarovski crystal chandeliers. Ice sculptures. Servers in black tie carrying trays of champagne that probably cost more per glass than my car payment. 89 people. I counted every single one. I recognized half of them from LinkedIn and Forbes. Congressman Patterson. Judge Williams. Christina Montgomery, CEO of Montgomery Capital. My father's universe. A world I deliberately rejected. Aunt Helen spotted me within 3 minutes. Mark? She pulled me into a tight hug. You actually came. Thank God. Is he really ready to make amends? I asked quietly. Something flickered in her eyes. Worry. Maybe fear. He said he wanted you here, she said, choosing her words carefully. Your great-aunt Dorothy is here too. She's been desperate to see you. Great-aunt Dorothy. My grandmother's older sister. 91 years old and sharper than most people half her age. I'd always adored her. I found her sitting near the windows, watching the party with the detached amusement of someone who'd seen everything twice. Marcus Jr., she said when I approached. Her voice was crisp, intelligent. The only Davidson man who chose substance over status. Tell me about your students. I sat. We talked for 30 minutes about my 8th graders, about the poetry unit we just finished, about the student who'd finally broken through her reading struggles and was now devouring books. She listened with complete attention, something my father had never given me. Your grandmother would be bursting with pride, she said finally. She always said the true measure of success isn't your bank account. It's the lives you touch. I miss her, I said. My grandmother had died when I was 15. Stroke. Sudden and devastating. Great-aunt Dorothy studied me with those sharp, knowing eyes. She saw who you'd become, she said. Even when you were young. That's why she made sure. Dorothy. My father's voice cut across the ballroom like a knife. Stop keeping my son to yourself. I have something important to say. My father stood at the front of the room. Wireless microphone clipped to his lapel. 89 people turning to face him. He looked like success personified. Tom Ford tuxedo, platinum cufflinks, hair artfully silver at the temples. The kind of man who expected the world to rearrange itself for his convenience. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began. 55 years. It's a moment to take stock, to think about legacy, about what we build, about what we pass on. He looked directly at me. Ice flooded my veins. My son Marcus is here tonight. He gestured in my direction. I'm sure many of you remember him. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Heads swiveling to stare. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I invited him here because I believe in transparency. In addressing difficult truths publicly, among the people who matter most to me. Aunt Helen's hand found mine under the table. Her palm was slick with sweat. Marcus chose a path that frankly baffled me, my father continued. He became a middle school teacher. He makes $62,000 annually. He drives a 15-year-old Honda. He lives in a one-bedroom rental apartment. Uncomfortable laughter scattered through the room. I've tried to understand this choice. I've given him time to come to his senses. To recognize that legacy, that innovation, that empire building, these are what matter in this world. His voice went cold. But he hasn't changed. He hasn't evolved. He remains stubbornly committed to a life of absolute mediocrity and wasted potential. The room went dead silent. So tonight I'm making something crystal clear to everyone in this room and to my son. He locked eyes with me. Marcus, you are pathetic. You are my biggest mistake as a father. And effective immediately, I am severing all ties. No inheritance. No family financial support. No use of the Davidson name in any professional context whatsoever. Congressman Patterson looked like he wanted to disappear. Judge Williams studied his champagne like it held the secrets of the universe. You wanted to be independent? My father's smile was cruel. Congratulations. You're completely on your own. I hope grading papers keeps you company when you're 70 and realize you threw away a fortune to babysit children. 89 people. All staring at me. I stood slowly. I didn't say a single word. I looked at my father. I looked at Aunt Helen, whose face was streaked with silent tears. I looked at Great Aunt Dorothy, who was glaring at my father with pure, undiluted contempt. And I walked out. Through the grand ballroom. Through the Four Seasons lobby. Out onto the Chicago street. The valet asked if I needed my car. Yes, please, I said calmly. The 2015 Honda Civic. Because that's who I am. That's what I drive. And I drove away with my dignity completely intact. I got home at 11:23 p.m. I sat in my one-bedroom apartment, my 750-square-foot apartment with the radiator that hisses and the view of the alley, and I stared at nothing. Disowned. In front of 89 people. My phone vibrated. Text from Aunt Helen. I'm horrified. I had no idea he planned that. Please call me. Another text. Great Aunt Dorothy. Surprising because she usually couldn't figure out how to unlock her phone. Come to my house tomorrow. 3 p.m. This cannot wait. I didn't sleep. The next day I drove to Evanston. Great Aunt Dorothy lived in a Victorian mansion on Sheridan Road. Circular driveway. Ivy-covered walls. The kind of place that whispered old, established money. She answered the door herself. No staff. She'd always insisted on her independence. Sit down, she commanded, pointing to an antique settee in her library. I'm going to tell you something your father has no knowledge of. She settled into the chair across from me, spine straight, hands folded with perfect composure. Your grandmother, my sister Elizabeth, was extraordinary. Brilliant and strategic. She married your grandfather, helped him build his first company, and watched him transform into the same kind of man your father became. Controlling. Ruthless. Obsessed with power. I nodded, barely breathing. When your grandfather died, he left the company to your father. Your grandmother received minimal life insurance. But Elizabeth had her own wealth. Family money that predated the marriage. Old money from our parents' shipping business. My heart hammered against my ribs. She created a trust. A trust exclusively for you, Marcus. Your father was completely excluded. She didn't trust him with it. She wanted to guarantee you'd have freedom, regardless of what path you chose. I couldn't feel my hands. Your mother knew. Before the cancer took her, she made me swear I'd tell you when the moment was right. I was going to tell you last night before your father's. She shook her head sharply. But perhaps his cruelty makes this the perfect timing. She handed me a manila folder. Law firm name embossed on the tab. Brennan and Associates. The trust activated when you turned 32. That was 3 months ago, Marcus. You're the sole beneficiary. The current value is $23.4 million. The world tilted sideways. 23 million. Yes. Great Aunt Dorothy's smile was fierce. Your grandmother was an exceptional investor. The trust has been compounding for 18 years since her death. Every penny belongs to you. I opened the folder with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Portfolio statements, legal documents, and a letter. Handwritten. My grandmother's elegant script. My dearest Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you're 32 years old. I hope you've become the man I always knew you would be, compassionate, principled, true to your calling. This money is yours alone, not your father's. I watched him try to mold you into his image even when you were a child. I refused to let him control your destiny. Spend it wisely. Spend it joyfully. Spend it building a life that has meaning to you. With endless love, Grandma Elizabeth. I sat there clutching that letter. $23.4 million. And my father had just publicly destroyed me in front of 89 people because I was poor. I met with the attorneys on Thursday morning. Brennan and Associates, 29th floor of a building in the Loop. Sarah Brennan herself handled my case. Steel gray hair, Armani suit, the kind of lawyer who billed $950 per hour. Mr. Davidson, she said, her handshake firm and confident. I've been administering your grandmother's trust since 2008. It's an honor to finally work with you directly. She explained everything. Stock portfolio, municipal bonds, commercial real estate. A perfectly balanced investment strategy managed by professionals for 18 years. Your options are flexible, she explained. You can maintain the current investment structure and draw from annual returns, approximately $780,000 yearly. You can liquidate specific assets as you see fit. You can redirect investments. You have complete control. My father doesn't know this exists? I asked. Your grandmother was extremely explicit. He was never listed in any documentation. He was never consulted. As far as he's aware, your grandmother's estate was distributed to medical research charities. I thought about Saturday night. The public humiliation. The cold satisfaction on my father's face. I want complete confidentiality for now, I said. Ms. Brennan nodded. Absolute discretion. That's our specialty. I walked out of that office and drove my Honda Civic back to Pilsen. Nothing had changed externally. I was still a teacher making $62,000 a year. Except now I had $23.4 million in investments. And my father didn't have a clue. I told no one. Not my colleagues. Not my friends. Not even Aunt Helen. I went to school every day. I taught the outsiders to my 7th graders. I supervised lunch duty. I stayed late for parent-teacher conferences. But something fundamental had shifted. The weight I'd been carrying, the sense of being a failure, of being a disappointment, it evaporated. I wasn't poor. I wasn't weak. I wasn't a mistake. I was a teacher because I chose it. Not because I was trapped. 3 weeks after the party my father called. I let it go to voicemail. Marcus, we need to discuss your childish behavior at my birthday. Walking out without a word was disrespectful and immature. Return my call. I deleted it. He called again 2 days later. I spoke with Principal Anderson at Lincoln. She confirmed your performance is satisfactory. That's marginally acceptable, I suppose. Call me back. Delete. 4th call a week later. Your aunt mentioned you seemed upset. You need to understand, Marcus, that tough love is still love. You needed a wake-up call. The world doesn't reward participation. It rewards results. Call me. Delete. But the 5th call was different. His tone had changed. I heard from a colleague that you were meeting with commercial real estate brokers in Wicker Park. Investment properties? I don't know what kind of scam you're involved in, but you need to be extremely careful. People will exploit your naivety. We need to talk about this. Call me immediately. I actually smiled, because I had been looking at properties. A gorgeous 3-flat in Wicker Park. Completely renovated. Owner wanted $1.7 million. I'd offered $1.9. All cash. Closing in 10 days. My father was getting curious. The closing was on a Tuesday. I took a personal day. Ms. Brennan's firm handled every detail. I signed documents for 50 minutes and walked out owning a nearly $2 million building in one of Chicago's hottest neighborhoods. I kept the existing tenants. Young professionals. A graphic designer in one unit, a nurse in another. I didn't raise their rent a single dollar. And I moved into the owner's unit on the 1st floor. 4 bedrooms. Exposed brick. A rooftop deck with skyline views. I was unpacking kitchen boxes that Saturday when my father's car arrived. Not just any car. A black Tesla Model X. With a driver in a suit. He stepped out, staring at the 3 flat like it was a personal insult to his existence. Marcus. Dad. How did you purchase this building? I set down a box of dishes. I made an offer. The seller accepted. Don't play games with me. How did you pay for this property? This building is worth almost $2 million. 1.7 actually. I paid 1.9. His face flushed dark red. You don't have access to that kind of capital. I met his eyes steadily. I have access to exactly that kind of capital. And I earned it by being born to the right grandmother. Complete silence. What the hell are you talking about? Grandma Elizabeth left me a trust. $23.4 million. She specifically excluded you from any knowledge of it. She didn't trust you. She wanted to ensure I'd have freedom. I watched him process it. The confusion. The dawning realization. The absolute fury. That's impossible. Her estate went to charity. Most of it did. But she had family money from her side. Old shipping fortune money. And she left every penny of it to me. You're lying to my face. I pulled out my phone. Opened my investment app. Showed him the portfolio balance. He stared at the screen. At that number with 7 digits before the decimal point. You've had this money the entire time? He stopped mid-sentence. When you publicly humiliated me and called me your biggest mistake in front of 89 people. Yes. I found out the next day. The day after your party. Why didn't you say anything? I picked up my box of dishes. Because I wanted to see what kind of man you really are. And you showed me perfectly. I walked into my building and closed the door behind me. He didn't handle it well. The following week, Principal Anderson called me into her office. Mark, I need to ask you about something. Awkward. I received an anonymous call suggesting you might be involved in some kind of financial irregularity. Unexplained wealth, possible fraud, that sort of accusation. Did this caller provide a name? I asked calmly. Principal Anderson hesitated. No. But Mark, if there's anything you need to tell me. I inherited money from my grandmother, I said clearly. It's completely legal, fully documented, and managed by Brennan and Associates downtown. If anyone asks again, you can refer them to my attorney. I handed her Ms. Brennan's business card. Principal Anderson's shoulders relaxed. Okay. Thank you for being straightforward. I figured it was something legitimate. Some people just like to stir up trouble. My father called that night. You need to be more careful, Marcus. People are asking serious questions about you. About the source of your money. Are they? Or are you the one asking questions and spreading insinuations? I'm protecting our family reputation. If you're mixed up in something illegal. I hit record on my phone. Say that again, I said flatly. What? You just suggested I might be involved in illegal activity. Say it again. Clearly. Long pause. I'm merely concerned, he said, suddenly cautious. You're harassing me. You're making false accusations to my employer. You're attempting to damage my professional reputation because you're furious that Grandma gave me money and deliberately excluded you. That money should have been what? Yours? She didn't want you to have it, Dad. She put that in writing, signed by attorneys. She didn't trust you. You arrogant little. I'm ending this call. If you contact my employer again, if you spread any additional false rumors about me, I will have my attorneys file a cease and desist for harassment and tortious interference with employment. Are we clear? I hung up. My hands were trembling. But I had the entire conversation recorded. 8 months passed. I continued teaching. My students had zero idea their teacher was a multimillionaire. I still drove the Honda Civic. I still bought $6 sandwiches from the corner deli. But I also donated $75,000 to the school STEM program. Anonymously. I created scholarships for 5 students who couldn't afford college visits. Anonymously. I bought new computers for the library when the district budget got slashed. Anonymously. I was living exactly the life I wanted. Teaching because it fulfilled me. Helping because I had the means. And then my father called again. Marcus. His voice was completely different. Strained. Almost broken. I need to speak with you. About what? Not over the phone. Can we meet? Tomorrow? Something in his tone made me say yes. We met at a coffee shop in Lincoln Park. Neutral territory. He looked older. Exhausted. The silver hair seemed thinner. There were new lines carved around his mouth. The FBI is investigating Davidson Tech, he said without any preamble. One of my executives falsified security certifications on government contracts. I didn't know it was happening, but I'm the CEO. Ultimate responsibility falls on me. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I genuinely meant it. I need help. Significant financial help. Legal defense fees. Potential settlements. I'm facing the possibility of losing everything I've built. He looked at me with something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Humility. I know I have no right to ask. I know what I did to you is unforgivable. But you're my son and I'm asking for help. I sat there for a long moment, remembering the 4 seasons. The 89 witnesses. You're pathetic. My biggest mistake. Remembering my grandmother's letter. I refuse to let him control your destiny. I'll help you, I said finally. Overwhelming relief flooded his face. But there's a non-negotiable condition. You start therapy. Real intensive therapy. Minimum 1 year. You work on understanding why you need to control everyone. Why you need to humiliate people to feel powerful. Why you equate net worth with human worth. Marcus, that's the deal. I'll cover your legal fees. I'll help with settlements if necessary. But you do the actual work to become a better human being. Or the offer disappears. He stared at me. This wasn't the son he'd disowned. Not the failure he'd expected. Okay, he whispered. Okay. 3 years later, he appeared at my classroom after the final bell. My students had just left. I was erasing the whiteboard, notes about To Kill a Mockingbird. Dad. He stood awkwardly in the doorway. Like he wasn't sure he had permission to be there. I've been in therapy for 2 years, he said quietly. Dr. Martinez thinks I'm ready to apologize properly. Really mean it. I set down the eraser. I was wrong, he said, his voice cracking. About everything. Teaching isn't mediocrity. Money isn't character. You weren't a mistake. I'm so deeply sorry, Marcus. I'm sorry. Tears ran down his face. I crossed the room. And I hugged my father for the first time in 8 years. Thank you for saying that, I whispered. We got coffee afterward. Deli coffee, not Starbucks. We talked about my students. About his therapy breakthroughs. About Mom and Grandma Elizabeth and all the years we'd lost. We're not perfect. We'll probably never be. But we're rebuilding. And I'm still a teacher. Making $62,000 a year. Driving my Honda Civic. Grading essays at my kitchen table in my beautiful Wicker Park 3 flat. Because some of us measure success differently. Some of us know that the most valuable inheritance isn't money. It's the freedom to become exactly who you're meant to be. My grandmother gave me $23.4 million. But the real gift was knowing I never needed my father's approval to live a meaningful life. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories about overcoming family challenges and finding your own path.